Inspired you to write the book, and what's this book about?
The first of all, the word river logic is really a powerful word for me. And it came originally from listening to a talk with Pema, who was describing how people live. She was describing people with rock logic, where we just become fundamentalists in our thinking, rigid, righteous, unmovable. And then she contrasted it with water logic. I started playing around with words and came up with river logic. And so a lot of what this book is sort of a journey. It's like a journey from rock logic to river logic. How do we move from being immovable and rigid in our thinking to more fluid, adaptable, and open? And so I take people somewhat on a journey. There's 7 chapters. Each chapter has a river word. And I'm really looking at literally how do we do that? And when I was in the design of the book and thinking about it, I was kind of doing my own research. Whether I was in a conversation with somebody, I was just noticing, where is their movement? I have been a mediator. People will come into mediation very stuck in their position. And typically the mediations ran at the max 3 hours. And I was very curious to see the movement. Where is the movement? Where are the openings? And I was good at finding them and helping people begin to see them. And so it started, instead of being that kind of stuck, immovable like a rock, they can start shifting a little bit. They're becoming more aware of the other person's reasons and I'm not saying that it would go from stuck to fluid in 3 hours, but having some movement, some opening, some willingness to look at something differently, that became what I'd call river logic.
Love it. And I'm just going down a pathway as you talked about the rock. And we get so, I don't know what the word is, we get so embedded into our opinion that we're just unaware that there's a whole different world out there that might give us some good wisdom if we would just pay attention. And it doesn't mean that you got to cave in on any of your principles, Denise.
No, and that's the beauty. So I use this example of water. Now, water changes shape. Water is a shapeshifter. It will take the shape of whatever object it's in. But water never ceases to be water. So that became a really interesting model for me. We can shapeshift, but we don't have to lose what we care about, what we most value. And it's really important to have what I call hard back, like firm foundation, boundaries, so that we can have a soft front where we can be more open. If we don't know what we stand for, we can get caught, and we could be people who have no boundaries, don't know where they stand. They get lost. People who are rigid, who have a strong back, but they also have a strong front, they're armored, nothing comes in. So this ability to be clear about what we care about, what's non-negotiable, gives us some openness to be curious and work with other people. Sometimes we might even change our mind or see some points that make sense to us. So this is really, in a lot of ways, is where my passion is these days, is being able to cross the aisle, talk to people who are different, be in worlds that are not like echo chambers, and be able to have real conversations. Even if it gets hot, heated, I can handle the heat these days. So that's...
Well, it's your role as mediator probably helps people handle the perceived heat. And if we attack each other, it's a downward spiral. But if we can attack ideas, we can explore the differences, but we also have similarities. And we probably have, I bet in your mediation work, you look for where are our common values and principles that we can align on. And then can we build that? Am I making an assumption there that's true or not?
Absolutely. It's kind of a complete main piece that a mediator is doing, is looking where there's some shared values, what commonalities, things that we both care about. It's a great kind of starting point for people. And you know that expression, it used to be 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
We used to hear that a lot.
Yeah.
My sense is that with a conversation, especially if you hang in there and you're persistent, it's 1 degree. We can find that degree.
Yes. We're talking about repair. So there's a preventative piece and there's a diagnostic piece. How do we prevent getting into these situations that we have? And you refer to it. I'm going to call it anxiety. We have a lot of anxiety and fear in the culture over many things. But there's an awareness of how do we approach it as a calm, conscious leader, being principle based and not being driven by the anxiety or the fear. So you got any advice on how do we prevent some of this and how do we aware of what's coming? And maybe if there's conflict, we all play a role. What is our role? How do we figure that out?
Such a good question. I feel like this work for any of us, and it takes some courage to jump into this work. There's a lot of personal work that everyone has to do. And the personal work is really about knowing how to self regulate our nervous system. Our nervous system will get activated. It's what we do. It's fight or flight is a primitive brain response. To override it takes work. And we have to have some practices. And this is where mindfulness comes in. But we also have to be aware of what's happening to us at the time. I have this quote in my book that I thought it was so powerful when I first heard it from Thich Nhat Hanh, where he says, when the Vietnamese came over in the boats, they were met with pirates and huge storms. But if just one person was able to stay calm and centered, it was enough for everyone to survive. It's so interesting. I don't know how many times I say it, I still get the chills. But that's what I think is required. We have to be able to do that. And it has a huge ripple effect on other people when we can hold that kind of space.
Our anxiety is contagious and our calmness is very influential. We can influence. So all the stuff we're taught about is based in relationship. And not our position of power, but how we influence others, no matter where we are in the organization. I think what you're saying is useful to us, no matter if we're at the top of the leadership chain or in the middle somewhere or at the bottom. These are all tools that we can use. So the book is useful. It's River Logic Tools. Is that the name of the book?
No, the name of the book is River Logic: Tools to Transform Resistance and Create Flow in All of Our Relationships.
That's lovely. So your work is probably outlined in the book, but there's a whole lot more that you do. So I invite people to go and check out your website, and there's a place to get the book, and you have podcasts and other good resources. So give us some. I'm an example kind of guy, so give me an idea of what it looks like. Example how you were able to transform resistance.
Well, I can give you a number of examples. Well, let me think about the one I want to give you. Well, this is a very recent example. It's a coaching client I have. And he was brought to me and I was told he's got an anger problem. Denise, you can help him. They were thinking, who can help this guy? He's kind of a hot shot in his organization. So a lot of people don't cross him much. And he has a pattern of blasting people, maybe even being a bully. And I was just beginning to work with him. And it was really like the early stages where I was sharing some of the homework that I wanted him to do for me and a number of exercises. And it was a little insensitive of me because he's got a very big job. And I was going to be meeting with him at the end of the week. And I think I gave him his assignments at the beginning of the week. And I got the blast that I had heard other people get. He sent me a really angry email. And on a scale of 1 to 10, it was right up there. It was maybe 9 plus. And I remember I'm a swimmer. So I had the reaction that anyone would have when you get attacked like that. And I went swimming and I was really working on it. I was thinking, wow, this is the beginning of a coaching relationship. This is not going well. And so when I met with him, first of all, I apologized for being insensitive about giving him so much. And he just started to berate me. And I said, what is your intention in your, so he was doing what you're doing. He just like, he said, well, it was really unfair. And I said, would you like to hear what the impact of your email was for me? And he was, I guess. And I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, it was about a 10. So it was really hard to take that. And I understand, and I did apologize. So what I did is I actually put the mirror up. So he was able to see what he did. We began to unpack that combination of intention versus impact as a tool. And in that moment, he completely trusted me. I don't think anyone's ever talked to him like that. So I was honest. I also was really compassionate. And so what I think is really important is to be real. And this idea of being able to be clear but kind, which is what Brene Brown says. I love it. Clear and kind.